Oh, there she is.
It's 4 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the Columbia Municipal Planning Commission to order. We'll start with a roll call.
Mr. Hutto, Mr. McBroom, Dr. McLean, Mayor Mulder,
Here.
Mr. Pace, Councilman Wiles, Mr. Goetz.
Here. 4 members present. That's enough for a quorum. I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. Did expect a pretty good crowd, and I see that you did pull through. Thank you. We do have we're doing it a little bit different tonight. There was a sign-up sheet out front. If you do want to speak tonight on an item, if you haven't already, I'd encourage you to sign up on the sign-up sheet. That's going to be your only opportunity. We will limit each one to a 3-minute, opportunity to speak on that. When we go through the item, when I get to the consent agenda items, that'll give you an opportunity to get up and go out and sign up again if you had not. And Melissa will grab those before we get to the items of discussion. So appreciate y'all cooperation on that. Next item is going to be the acknowledgement of the official communications of the Columbia City Council on annexation and zoning.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So there were a few items at the April meeting of City Council that you did move forward a recommendation on. The first item is going to be the second consideration and final reading of the Pulaski Highway rezoning from general commercial service to mixed residential commercial. That item was denied by council on second consideration. Also in second consideration, you had the rezoning and annexation of property 1686 Lucia Road. That property was being zoned to R10, I believe, and that was passed by City Council for final reading, as well as the comprehensive plan designation amendment on North Point Road from Employment District to Rural Countryside, which also included the rezoning of that property to RS40, was also approved at second consideration. For first consideration, there was the property at 626 Baker Road. That property, I believe that was approved, if I remember correctly, Mayor.
Yes.
And then also you have 913 Riverside Drive as first consideration. That was also approved on first consideration. That was all the items from City Council.
Was the Lucia first reading or final reading? Second. Irrelevant. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll find the end.
No problem. Next item is going to be the approval of the minutes from last month's meeting. Everyone should have a copy of that in their package and had an opportunity to review them. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the vote.
Mr. Hutto, Mr. McBroom, Mayor Mulder,
Aye.
Mr. Pace, Mr. Goetz.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Item 1.6, review of bonds and letters of credit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All letters of credit are in order.
Thank you. Brings us to our consent items. Item 2.1 and 2.2, with 2.1 being request from TKC Architect and Engineering for approval of final plat with surety in the amount of $156,000 for cottages of Bear Creek Pike Phase 2, located at tax map 74, parcels 37.03. And then item 2.2, request from Chap Delaney and Associates for final plat approval of East 7th subdivision on the corner of East 7th and East End. Anybody requesting either one of these be moved down to discussion items? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve those consent items subject to any technical comments.
Second.
A motion second, any discussion? Call the vote.
Mr. Hutto, Mr. McBroom,
Aye.
Mayor Mulder,
Aye.
Mr. Pace, Mr. Goetz.
Aye. Items passed. Brings us to discussion items 3.1. Request from Steve DeSoto for rezoning of 10 acres being tax map 99, parcel 59.03 from R20 low density to R6 medium high density residential.
Mr. Chairman, this is a request there at the end of Hardwick Avenue and East End Street for approximately 10 acres. The current existing zoning for this property is R20, which is related to the square footage of each lot required in this zone, being 20,000 square feet. It is surrounded by R6 and RM1 within this area. It is within the Connect Columbia Comprehensive Plan as urban neighborhood, which does support the R6 medium density residential designation. For this request, we have included inside of your staff report the Articles 319.6 as well as 318.7B with regards to the review criteria of the rezoning of a piece of property. The conceptual plan for this illustrates the request would be for 47 single-family residential lots. During study session, Mr. Chairman, there was discussion with regards to the R designation versus the RS. The applicant representative did state that they would be okay with the RS, but I would recommend we have that on record today.
You can sign up sheet around here. Not sure if anyone signed up for this particular item, but let me look at that real quick. It does appear to be the only one. Mr. Vick, can I call you forward on that one?
Good afternoon. I'm Gerald Vick with WS Engineers. I'm representing the project.
to answer the question, I've confirmed with the owner they would be acceptable to modifying the zoning request to RS6.
Thank you, Mr. Pick. Questions for Mr. Pick? Thank you, sir. Surrounding properties are in that R6 category already, correct?
R6 and RM1.
I'll make a motion to approve contingent on being RS6.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the vote.
Mr. Hutto? Mr. McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye.
Mr. Pace? Mr. Goetz?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Next item tonight's item 3.2, request from Andy Davison for approval of a revised master plan for an RM1 PUD located on 6.38 acres being tax map 118, parcel 19.20.
Mr. Chairman, this flood master plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Basin.
Mr. Chairman, this master plan started in April of 2021 with a revision to the master plan. That master plan then came back before you in June, and then again in February as a final master development plan for 32 attached villas. Here again, this is a request for the similar number of 32. So the density has not changed within this development. They're requesting to change the elevation of this particular product that's being placed on this one. We did have discussion at the study session. When you look on your agenda, look for the, Kevin has subcategorized those items for the new items being submitted as additional items, where there was some discussion with regards to one of the elevations. They did submit a new elevation in response to comments from study session. So there are two elevations that they're going to be placing on the 32 lots within this development there on the 6.38 acres. So to recap, we are just discussing the elevation as the only revision other than adjustments of driveway. Also see in your PUD master.
I do see, it looks like there's been a couple people in the audience tonight that have signed up on this, so forgive me, I'm going to try my best to read some of the writing here. First item was signed up just below Mr. Farrell Vick here. Sorry. Was it you? Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you. Anyone else that may have signed up for that one, as I get the other hands, I see, McGowan. Gotcha. Thank you.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Question. After looking at this, y'all changed both plans. This one duplex that you showed wasn't showed at study session. Y'all changed both.
So you have a plan we call the Pearl, and we also have the plan we call the Fernvale. And both of those, again, are master down townhouse villas that we're planning to build there. And,
See, that wasn't what was presented at study session, though.
and we told you we were going to resend you the new plan.
We replaced the
I
projects.
mean, I'm just saying, I didn't know you were gonna do both, so I just got this Monday and saw this new revision. Also, one of, and this is a PUD, you have 8-foot garage doors,
Single car garages.
8 foot?
Yes, sir.
You don't think that's tight?
So we build this product all over Middle Tennessee right now, and we're building it out in Williamson County and Fairview and back in Spring Hill. And typically you're building this for a senior product, and that's what we typically go with, an 8-foot garage door.
Well, the problem that everybody I think's having is not what we voted on the first time. It's totally different. It's not a one-story, it's not a 2-car garage. Now it's a 1-car garage that's 8 foot wide, and it has upstairs in it. And there was no green sign put out to let the residents around there really know what was going on. Am I right? A green sign wasn't put out to let them know that we were doing this?
Yeah, I don't think that one would required. Not a
So it's not
rezone.
required, so, I mean, some people, if they knew this, they're gonna feel like, well, this wasn't what we were told, they might have more opinion on it. So, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what direction to go. I think it's kind of, what people were told 2 months ago is not what's happening now.
The previous developer, product would not work on that, and, all things being considered, it was not a sellable product to go on there, and they walked on that job. And so we picked the job up after it was approved, and we changed the product. Again, we do about 500 homes a year in Middle Tennessee here. We've been here since 1988. We've done numerous jobs in Columbia, up in Arden Village and things of that nature, so.
Oh, I don't have, I just wonder if the residents would like to know what was going on around them, since they don't know now what's changed. Could we, I mean, is that a reasonable request?
It was entitled
I mean,
for
how would you
32,
handle
but
that,
it
Paul,
was
if that's what the board wants to do?
being tied to a single story product.
I would just need to know what sort of notification.
I mean, would you not want the people that were told it was gonna be a 2-car garage, 1-story houses, and they saw it looks great? Now they're told it got changed?
I mean, we can add additional notice however you wish. I don't recall anybody coming to the meetings for this particular master plan when it came in.
I'm just, but a lot of people were talking about
They
it.
went too far, right? That's one way.
We had
People were
we
asking, they
had
said,
parking
"Oh, it's gonna be
pads,
great,"
so
and they were told what it was.
we just had we had a parking pad for 2
I'm just thinking it's not, I'm having a hard time, it's totally different than what we voted on. Now it's changed.
Mr. McBroom, the previous product, if I remember right, had 2-car parking pads out front. And we've got 2-car parking pads in front of these. The difference is that we've added a 1-car garage.
Yeah, but the other one, it was a 2-car, and they were on the ends.
To my knowledge,
Yes, the 2-car pads were on the end, and we had a nice window and a door, and
Remember
the front door, it looked wider. Now, whether it worked or not, we didn't know that. So, I mean, we voted on what we did. I'm just seeing, I just wondering how the board feels like it should proceed on.
Mr. Gunner, is any of the garage parking even counted for in the parking project?
I believe each driveway is a 2-car driveway.
each driveway's 2-car, and the 30% they said 30% of the garage space, so that's been the calculation. It reduces down to 30%.
and we made sure the parking pad from the back of the sidewalk to the house was at 22 feet. And to my knowledge, and so we've got room to park 2 cars as well as park one in the garage.
Did you say that you?
Yes, sir. We, if you look right across the street, there's actually an assisted living facility over there. And we do a lot of studies on the senior buyers. We don't basically make it required that they be senior buyers. But at the same time, we usually find that once they lose one of the partners, they usually go to a home similar to this right here, that they can have independent living. And so that you find that one of the mate might live up into the 90s, or one of them might pass away in the 70s, but they still would like to have a place that they live and support themselves in.
We tend to shy away from it just because of a tracking standpoint. We would have to actually go and research deeds and do surveys to see if that's the case. Normally you see it considered age targeted, where there's certain items, countertops, fixtures, they're all at different levels to accommodate.
Right. We target the 55 plus buyer.
Where this is in
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And the real difference is just the product, the actual house itself that we're going to build, the duplex, the building. And so we're not really changing the street layout, anything of that. We're just basically providing a product we think there is a better product to sell. If you looked at one of the floor plans, you'd find that we have 2 bedrooms on the first floor. One of them is actually called a flex room. And what we've learned by this buyer is that mom and dad might still get along when in the 60s, but maybe they'd like to be able to sleep longer at night, and one of them might snore. And so That's why you have that, but at the same time, it could be a separate TV room. And then upstairs, you do have a bedroom for a guest bedroom and a loft area that again, that they can use for a computer room or entertainment room that they could, be on a computer or on a TV.
I'm not necessarily wrong with the plan, I just don't like the process. Seems like you've skipped the process that the other guy did for you, and then you changed it, and you didn't have to do stuff that he had to do. Your product's different. That's the only thing I'm concerned about. Everybody felt like it's okay, then
What's the ratio of your 2 stories compared to your single level?
On that right there, they're all basically will be a 2-story product. And so they're around 1,400 to 1,600 square feet. And again, if you went to Spring Hill right across from City Hall, the same product exists. And if you look at the buyers that went in there, you pretty well find we have single females and we have older couples that actually like the Pearl and the other one that we're building out there. And the Fairview one right there, that's actually being built, Fernville, that's actually being built in Fairview right now. It was a neighborhood very similar to this where a builder went out and we went in, took it over and finished it and are building our product out there. And to give you an idea, in Fairview, every one that we've released, which is about 20 of the 30 units, they're all sold. Think about the buyer today that's living in Columbia that might be 55, 60 years old, might have $200,000, $300,000 equity in their house. They're able to sell that, buy something debt-free, or be able to move and put that money in the bank and live off of it.
Am I looking at this correct that the Pearl does not have a front entry door?
It's a side entry.
Side entry.
We do that on purpose for the elevation. And again, if you went to Spring Hill right across from the City Hall, we call it the Spring Hill Town Center, you would find that very same product there.
Targeting the 55 and older, and how much like ADA capable, ability stuff do y'all have in these?
We do that, just what you're saying. So the first floor, it's usually all the doors are 36 inches on the first floor. If you look at the bathroom doors, I think the requirement is 2.8 and larger for the doors. And then typically we grade the site for slabs so that there's hardly any steps from the garage into the house. And that's one reason we went after this site. We plan on doing a mass grading of the site, lifting it up, and making it to where you would not have stairs to get in and out of the house.
Well, I myself have owned a home that had an 8-foot door, and I will say that is very tight for most any vehicle.
Yes, sir.
9 foot is much better way to make it a 9 foot.
I'd have to study it, but I can't say it off the top of my head.
Well, the door is so tight, if you get a big enough car, you're almost going to pull in front of your walk-in door to your, you're that close. That's how small that garage is.
From staff's point, Mr. Keltner, is there anything further? You guys need more time to review these. I know at study session, we talked about seeing the new revisions once we discovered that what was provided was not the proper ones. You didn't seem too concerned. I don't getting that in today's meeting. Is there anything you guys would need further review on this?
No, sir, really, as kind of stated, you're just discussing architecture. You really didn't get into any site work, any structure requirements, so it's strictly just the building that's being placed there. Staff's perspective, it's the opinion of this in regards to the architect. Yes. So a list brick and fiber cement.
I know the previous one originally had some of the units had maybe, you may know better than I do, Mr. Keltner, but had about 10 feet of a back patio area before it had a retaining wall or a wall. Similar, I guess, on all of these,
Yeah.
all that's still going to stay the same.
Still options to do some patios, but we showed inset.
Some of you don't see it on the site plan there, but every unit has that are the ones we call the Pearl, has an inset for a patio that's covered. And that's usually about a 6 foot by 8 foot area. And then the other units do have a patio or deck off the rear.
I did notice, looked like some of them had like a second level patio as well on the rear.
Yes, sir, it sure is, off the back.
I mean, I do like that, you know, still targeting them to the 55 and older, which seems to be a high demand in our area here. And, you know, the previous ones did not have any bedrooms that were last week on the main floor. So, you know, I see these two now. I would like to see a 9-foot door if at all possible. I don't know if we have any real, you know, request over that or, you know, ability to.
But it's on this commission.
We'll study it and see if we've got room to put it in there. You know, nowadays with the wind load calculations and all that, it all comes back to making sure that you got a header all the way across it and the right kind of support on either side. But we'll have our architect study it. We wouldn't have a problem with that. And again, you think about this type of community putting demands on your schools. And the other reason we picked this site is right next door is your food store, your grocery store, and a couple little restaurants and stuff that they can walk to. And so the odds are this buyer will end up having one car and would not have a 2-car family, and what we usually find out.
Totally agree that there's a really, frankly, the reason that I thought that maybe this was going a different direction was because of the
You basically, you think of the 55-year-old, I'm 73, and you think about the 50, that's young today. And that buyer is usually the one whose family has grown, they've gone out, and they're looking to move down to something that basically gives them a more maintenance-free, we call it a lock and leave lifestyle. And so the odds are he will have a computer or she will have a computer upstairs, and she would have hers on downstairs, and TVs the same way for entertainment, and they could go back and forth. And so at the same time, think about families too. They might have a child that comes back and spends some time there. But again, this product is very well proven for us, and we build it, a lot of it.
Decided yet on your restrictions if you're gonna allow rental?
We don't allow rentals. We don't allow investors. If you went to our company today and you told me you wanted to buy one for rent, we'll tell you we do not sell to investors. We don't want them in there.
To be honest with you, I'm just trying to struggle with whether I make the motion to approve or defer with study to allow time for the study of the 9-foot door. So that would be make it subject to, you know, just the results of that, you know, findings of that. So motion to approve subject to the findings of a 9-foot door.
You can put the requirement of a 9-foot door.
The plan we call the trotwood, pearl trotwood, could definitely have a 9-foot door. And let me look at the other one real quick. Yeah, you got the, what's the other one? The Ferndale. Yeah, what's your Ferndale? You got the floor plan?
Next sheet.
And the Fernvale could be too, so we wouldn't have no problem agreeing to a 9-foot garage door.
That being said, then I'm gonna make a motion to approve subject to, you know, conforming to the 9-foot door on that. So,
Thank you very much.
any other discussion? Call the vote.
Mr. Hutto? Mr. McBroom?
I'm not it's just, I feel like a shortcut. I think the product's fine, it's even better now that you made it a 9-foot because the whole house is going to be bigger. It's just, I feel like some people were, I don't want them to feel like they were misled. But it's going to be a good product. No investors, no rental. Reluctantly vote.
Thank you.
Mayor Mulder? Mr. Pace? Mr. Goetz?
Aye. Motion's approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda, item 3.3, request from Item Crunk for annexation with plan of services of approximately 87 acres being tax map 112, parcel 17, with rezoning to R10 low-density residential.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, so this is, as you stated, around an 80-plus acre site that's being requested to be annexed. The annexation request is the RS10, which is low-density residential for single-family homes. The surrounding property, mostly vacant land with an RS10 or an RS20 designation on those. The concept plan that was submitted with this request shows 182 single-family homes. For the annexation, we'll look at the comprehensive plan for the city of Columbia, which is, this is considered rural countryside. RS10 within your zoning ordinance is considered a low-density residential zoning designation. We have also indicated within your staff report the section 319.6 and 318.7. I would like to point out that on 318.7, number 6, as staff has done these for your review, staff does feel as though that some of the criteria is not being met with regards to roads on this one, in consideration of Foster Lane, which is really not a road. The only access this property currently would have would be pointing out concerns of annexing a piece of property with no road frontage. The applicant has indicated of no desire to upgrade Foster Lane to a city street.
Mr. Broom will abstain. I know there are people here that looks like did sign up on this tonight, but, based on the notion that there's no adequate current infrastructure in place of 319.6, I would see a reason, but they should make a motion to deny. Maybe a little bit early on that. Question. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the vote.
Mr. Hutto, Mr. McBroom, Mayor Mulder.
Aye.
Mr. Pace. Mr. Goetz.
Aye. Motion's denied. I know there were some people in the crowd here tonight, so sorry if I overlooked your option, but I wanted to go ahead and thank you. Next item on the agenda tonight, item 3.4.
How you want to explain what happened now? I don't know.
Oh,
They got a bewildered look on their face.
so it was the request for the annexation was denied. Does that mean it can still go on to city council?
Yes, so your vote tonight was just a recommendation to city council. So it's up to the applicant whether they wish to proceed to city council with a recommendation of denial from this body.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Prim. Thank you, Mr. Keltner. So what that means is it could still be on next month's city council agenda for discussions and all that. So, but it would be with a recommendation from this body for it. Thank you.
May I speak a moment?
No, thank you.
No, okay.
If it goes to city council, you'll have an opportunity there.
Okay.
Next item tonight is going to be item 3.4, request from Chap Delaney and Associates for approval of preliminary plat for Fieldstone Farm, Section 5, located at tax map 88, parcel 70.01.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, so this preliminary plat in your staff report has 6, but when they resubmittal, they reduced that down to 4 lots. As we discussed in study session, 4 lots there located on about 1.5 acres of property there on the front side of an existing subdivision. There's been quite a few comments sent back and forth with the applicant. There's still several comments that staff has been unable to get a complete submittal on the final plat for this. For the preliminary plat on this. From our standpoint, we would really like to see the plat come to you in a more complete form with these many comments and conditions.
We've already deferred this one. Or they withdraw.
I think it was, if I remember right, deferred. I feel like this one came to us before, maybe last. Have to confirm that.
Well, I make a motion to defer, put in there, this is the last I heard.
We can make that as a note that
I know we've seen it. I think one time they pulled it. I make a motion to defer.
You are correct, they withdrew it in February.
And was it,
It's been withdrawn and deferred, so they need to get it together.
hey, we heard your motion.
All right.
Thank you. Looking for a second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the vote.
Mr. Hutto. Mr. McBroom.
Aye.
Mayor Mulder.
Aye.
Mr. Pace. Mr. Goetz.
Aye. Motion is deferred. Next item tonight, item 3.5, request from Scotty Burnick for annexation with plan of services of approximately 106 acres, being tax map 92, parcels 11.01 and 11.02, with rezoning to RS-10, single-family, low-density residential. I see here noted that the applicant has requested to defer this item.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, based on the comments from study session, they would like additional time to help resolve some of those comments.
On the applicant's request, I'll make a motion to defer. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the vote.
Mr. Hutto. Mr. McBroom.
Aye.
Mayor Mulder.
Aye.
Mr. Pace. Mr. Goetz.
Aye. The motion is deferred. Next item tonight's item 3.6. Big Bear Bluffs Comprehensive Plan Amendment, Annexation and Rezoning with preliminary PUD master plan request from Greg Gamble for comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use designation from suburban neighborhood to suburban corridor for 68.5 acres, annexation of approximately 413 acres, and rezoning with approval of a mixed-use preliminary PUD master plan for 76.36 acres to RM1 PUD with limited commercial office uses and 343.43 acres R6 PUD. Did I do okay on that?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. So as you can see in your packet, it's a fairly lengthy staff report, 14 pages of documentation on this particular request from Kevin McCarthy and Austin Brass. So I will try to recap those for you. So this is an annexation request. We'll also be including a plan of services there for approximately a little over 400 acres there adjacent to Duck River between Bear Creek Pike and Iron Bridge Road. As you stated, the applicant is requesting to amend the future land use map change of the character area for a 165-acre portion of that from suburban neighborhood to suburban corridor, which is on the northern side. So in your packet, you see in the pattern book, all these items are laid out for you as individual requests. In addition, the applicant's requesting to rezone for approval of mixed-use preliminary PUD master plan. So we've got an annexation, we've got a comp plan amendment for the northern portion, and then also a master plan for a planned unit development for the entire property there. The base zoning is being requested for as an RS6 for approximately 343 acres, with RM1 for about 76 acres. Putting those together, it's a mixed-use development containing about 1,400 residential units and about a 4-acre commercial site within that. So I will break that down for you in a little bit of a smaller piece there. So inside this development, the RS6 section is about 790 homes. Of those 790 homes, there's different types of lot sizes. So you have about 505 of those that are going to be the 50-foot standard traditional setbacks inside of that. I'll go through some of the exceptions they're requesting too. So the only exception they're requesting on this 505 there that I just discussed will be an encroachment for the front porch. So they're requesting to have a larger porch section, first floor. So as you can see in the variances, one variance would be the encroachment into the street yard to have a larger porch for the home. 192 of those lots will actually be a 55-foot wide lot. There again, following the standard setbacks for the RS6 designation and also asking for a larger. There's another 50 lots that will be 77.5 feet wide, following the same setbacks. And you also have 41 of the lots that will be 80 foot or larger in the road frontage there, following traditional setbacks for that. Then as you move from the south to the north, so heading into the more northern portion as we go into the RM1, which is a high-density residential, as well as the commercial commercial area is all located in the northern portion. They will be asking for 300 townhome lots with a lot depth of around 90 feet and have varying widths. So the exterior, the corners will be 24s and the interiors will be 18. Corner lots will have a little bit more width in there at 30. They will be following the setback of 20 feet, but will also be requesting an encroachment into that front setback for the porch section only. They are requesting separation, an 8-foot relief on the separation, so they're looking at 12 foot between buildings instead of the traditional 20. They have provided the private yard space for each one of the units. They are providing parking for the townhome section through a combination of driveway spaces, garage parking, and on-street spaces. The majority of these properties will be rear-loaded, alley-loaded style of townhome. Then as you move into the multifamily, they're asking for 10 3-story tall buildings for the apartments, and they are requesting, instead of the standard 24 units per building, go to a 30-unit building. They have provided you with the architectural details for all of these, so all the architectural details are in your pattern book. Those architectural details illustrate the materials as well as the style of the buildings. The master plan also, I'm sorry, I missed the commercial. So then you have the commercial that's on the very northern portion of it. The commercial section, as you can see, is outlined in there. It's a very straightforward design on the site plan itself. As you see, the buildings are actually lining the street with the parking either to the side or to the rear of the commercial developments. They are relatively small in size. Speaking on that, we failed to mention that study session that staff initiated the architectural designs on the commercial section on the northern portion. Because of the architecture requirement coming in is actually just last week when we initiated that with the applicant. One of the things that have come out is that the design review team would need to make a recommendation to the body with regards to the architectural style of commercial section. So there's only a couple of buildings there, two buildings that would actually be commercial. So we would be requesting the applicant go to that board, get the recommendations to this body. Then as we go into the amenities areas, the amenities for the area include amenity center with a pool and playgrounds, natural trails, dog parks, and also an additional amenity area for the multifamily section, which are all scattered throughout the development from the north to the south to ensure that no matter which section you'll be living in, there is an amenity that would be within a quarter mile of your home, which is standard for amenities location. Connectivity, so it will have a spine road that would run north to south from the development connecting from Bear Creek. They have acquired the property that is directly across from Patterson Drive to set up an intersection there that would go all the way down to Iron Bridge Road. That section will be a boulevard-style section with 8-foot wide sidewalks and additional 5s. It will be landscape medians throughout the middle, as well as each home is required to plant additional trees along in their front yard to bring in even more urban forest for that area. Open space for this project, the RS6 base has a minimum of 10% open space. This proposed development is providing 42% within the RS6 zoning. For the RM1 area is a 12% requirement. They are providing 40%, as well as mentioned as far as landscaping each individual house, which is above current standard there. They've also highlighted the areas that they will be putting up tree protection zones during the work, save a good portion of the currently vegetated area. to highlight the comp plan, to keep in mind, the reason for the corridor request is that the comprehensive plan, in order to allow housing, has to be a corridor. You hear corridor, you think commercial, but actually in Net Columbia, it's the only way you can get zoning designation to allow the townhomes or the apartments to actually go to corridor on that. So as we stated in other items tonight, we did list the 319.6, 318.7B, the items of your review. They are fairly lengthy on that. Also, inside your package, you have technical comments where we have submitted all of this packet to the different entities with regards to water, sewer, schools, police, fire. All of those entities have been sent the information and provided opportunities for feedback with regards to development. And then at the same time, we did require a traffic impact study. We want to know the improvements that would be required for this.
I think I may start with hearing from Harper on what the traffic studies, and then I want to shift from there public comments.
Okay, sure, I'll go over the highlights of the traffic study. You'll go to the aerial traffic improvement map that was provided. We'll kind of do this counterclockwise and start at the top right with number 1. The first improvements are at Bear Creek Pike and Mount Olivet Road, and it's basically just some restriping and some signal timing to make that intersection function a little more, get a little more capacity through there. Improvement number 2 is at Tom Hitch and Bear Creek, and its addition of a northbound right turn lane. Improvement number 3 is the traffic signal, which aligns with the access to the site, which is directly across from Patterson Drive. So there'll be turn lanes along Bear Creek, turn lane added on Patterson, a signal installed at the access. Improvement number 4 is a traffic signal installed at James Campbell Boulevard and Tom J. Hitch. And then improvements 5, 6 are the access that comes onto Iron Bridge Road with turn lanes installed to access that.
I know there's a lot of people here tonight that signed up to speak, so I'm just going to go down the list from. And what I would ask, I am going to give 3 minutes to each person, to speak. If somebody, just out of the essence of time for everyone, if the person already cleared please just, waive your opportunity to the next person if they've already covered what your concerns were. So first person on the list here is Debbie Notley, and I'm going to do my best on the pronunciation. So please come forward, state your name and address, and your 3 minutes will start.
Hello, Debbie Notley, 801 Running Deer Drive in Columbia. I'm also running for County Commission in District 8, which is part of this development. Couple of concerns that I have, and I know that other people are here to discuss it as well, but one of the issues is the traffic study. I spoke with a developer after the study session last week and asked him if the traffic study concerned at all Mount Olivet Road or Iron Bridge on the west of Tom Hitch. Because most of these homes, one of the selling points to this development is how close you are to the lovely town square of Columbia. Those people are going to be coming out onto Iron Bridge, crossing Tom Hitch, and traveling on a 2-lane road that's only 20 miles an hour. And the only way I can see past that is for you guys to get rid of those houses or get rid of the park. You're going to have to improve that road as well. Mount Olivet is a 2-lane road. It's 45 miles an hour. It's already in bad repair. It doesn't have good shoulders. And if you think the construction trucks are not going to go down Mount Olivet to get to that back end, I think you're missing the boat on that one. Emergency response. I don't know what the response was from your fire and protection on that, but I know that I asked one of the one of the police officers last week, so how many officers are on the Columbia Police Department right now? He said, well, we're supposed to have 89, but so how many more officers is it going to require for this subdivision? 1,400 homes is a lot of homes. So are y'all prepared to build a new police station for all these new homes going in? Because it's going to need that. Same with fire, that we don't have the water for the fire, that it's for the water resources it's going to take for fire protection. Also, one of the things is a river access. I believe there's a river launch in part of their plan. That river is covered for emergency response by the county fire. If you have river rescues, that's the county fire. County fire is all volunteer. There aren't paid firemen there. So now you're adding 1,400 homes there with access to the river. Not only is it going to impact the river as a resource, but you're adding additional problems for possibly emergency response on that. And the last thing, I'll make it really brief. When I talked to the developer afterwards and I asked him these same questions, he didn't answer me, and he kind of said, well, we already own the property. Basically, we can do what we want, which unfortunately begs the question is, who would spend millions of dollars on a piece of property unless they already had a guarantee in place? And unfortunately, that makes it look like palms were greased already, and this is already a done deal. And I'm sorry. So I would respectfully request that you turn down this annexation and the rezoning of this. We have a lot of people here that feel obviously the same way. So I apologize. I apologize for the insult. I'm not pointing at anybody. Absolutely. Absolutely, sir. I'm responding to, I sent a letter out and Melissa just passed it out to my neighbors, asking them, telling them about this meeting tonight, asking what their concerns were. And that came from several neighbors. Why would they spend millions of dollars on this unless they were already promised something in advance?
Your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just say something to that. Ms. Notley, thank you for being here tonight and for your comments. But I will say to those of you who might be in opposition to this project, I'm not going to help the cause by trying to throw around false accusations and try to harm people's character. We're all in this room have a common goal of wanting Columbia to move forward in a right and a positive direction. And I can promise you everyone on this planning commission, everyone on city council shares that goal, and I suspect all of you in here. But I understand there have been some accusations out of people having ownership interest in this property. About are people being paid off? That's not going to help your cause of your project. Here for me first, nobody on this board, nobody on this project. It's just not how it works. You're opposed to this. Prefer the opposition to be on more substantive matters and not based upon false accusations. Because again, these people are here, volunteers, dedicating their time to make it a place. I see several public servants in the audience tonight as all know that to be true. Public service requires a sacrifice. Help them by throwing out false accusations.
And I will, just to reiterate what Mayor Mulder just said, we won't tolerate it. If I hear continuous of any kind of accusations of that nature, we'll just stop the public discussions altogether. So, I do applaud, I do want to hear sincere concerns, but I won't be accused of taking money or getting some type of robberies or anything of that nature. So, that being said, next person on our list, I believe, is Gabe Howard.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mulder and Planning Commission members. My name is Gabe Howard, and I'm running for County Commissioner in the 8th District, where this development is proposed. I'm coming to you this afternoon as a concerned citizen and the effects that this development will have on my family and many others in this room. Some have been here generationally, and others, like myself, moved here to enjoy the beautiful rural life that Murray County offers. We must come together as a community and stop this out-of-control growth, as it will have consequences short-term and long-term. My message this afternoon is growth must pay for growth. We must say no to Big Bear Bluffs And we also must say no to phase 2 on Rock Springs Road development. It is time that our city, county, and school leadership come together as a community to unite in this and to get this right. The time is now. We may have political differences, but we have a responsibility to leave Murray County better than we all found it for the next generation. My points. Schools. We do not have the space to put additional kids in our schools. You'll hear from school board members later. We do not have the facilities. We do not have the funds to purchase the land and put our kids in it. We do not have, as of right now, there's 120 vacancies of teachers in Murray County school system. There are some of our kids that are being taught through Zoom sessions online from out-of-state teachers. This education must be a priority in our county, in our city, and we must make sure that there's a plan and infrastructure in place before approving additional developments. Roads. There has never been a time that I've lived in Murray County that I've seen the city, county, and state roads as bad as they are today. There is no additional funds available to support additional road infrastructure. There should be a comprehensive traffic study for this as well. I know that there was a traffic study, but I do not believe it was a comprehensive, including all of the access roads. Water. And speaking with the experts on the matter in regards to water supply, this is a massive concern area in our county, as we do not have a major reservoir system to support the needs of our major developments like Big Bear, Bluffs, and other developments. Instead, we're sending our water out of our county. Sewer. In the city staff's comments, there's already concerns regarding wastewater being at capacity and requiring bigger and more pumps. The other concern is infrastructure piping not being adequate for this development as well as others. The environmental impact. The Duck River is home to over 50 species of freshwater mussels and over 150 species of fish, and is the most biologically diverse river in North America. It is also home to several different endangered species and protected birds. This is also where our water comes from. I do not believe that putting 1,400 plus homes bordering it for almost a mile is a responsible thing to do. Has there been a comprehensive environmental impact study completed? In closing, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to get up here and speak. I would like to leave you with this. You have the opportunity and responsibility right now to take a stand and say no to Big Bear Bluffs so that we can get this right. We understand that growth is coming to Columbia, and we should all be proud of this. We understand we want it to be smart and sensible growth. This is not. I would respectfully ask for you to vote no to this development moving forward until further notice or when comprehensive studies have been completed, including traffic, impact, environmental. Lastly, I would like to provide you with a petition with almost 650 names.
Thank you for your
Yes, sir.
time. Appreciate
Thank you.
being here tonight.
Thank you.
We'll move on to next item on the list. Now, Mr. Michael Fulbright, I know you just put schools, but I'm assuming you're here to speak on this particular item, so.
Actually, I have a couple items. Thank you. My name is Michael Fulbright. I'm not running for county commission. I am the chairman of the Murray County School Board, and that's why I'm here. But before I get into that, I do want to address the Trotwood development that was discussed earlier. When this initially came up, as a member of Trinity Lutheran Church at 5001 Trotwood, expressed concerns. We currently already have a flooding problem that comes off of the Food Line property. We just want to make sure that's been addressed. We were told that we would be contacted, and we haven't been yet. So we just want to continue to express that concern. The real reason I'm here tonight is to talk a little bit about the effect that not only this development that's being discussed, but all of the developments within our area have for the schools. Personally, me and the school board, we're not for or against anything, this proposal specifically, because we know that if this one's voted down, there's 20 more in the pipeline. We know that this is not a one-time problem. What I would like to address is whether you vote for it or not, whether the houses are built or not, we have to provide, according to the state constitution, educational opportunities for the students that move in. The latest statistics show that there's 41 children for every 100 homes built in any development. For this one specifically, we would be looking at 567 students, which is almost 80% of a school unto itself. If you look at everything that's been approved, I've heard a number of 14,000. That's looking at close to 6,000 students, and that would be roughly 6 to 7 schools. We simply don't have the opportunity to have an increase in funding. We're tapped out on our sales tax increases, and realistically, the county commission, who we're at their mercy, they cannot realistically raise enough property tax to make these make our schools to pay our schools is what I'm trying to say. We're really hamstrung. We're looking in different directions. We're looking for some alternatives to the current funding systems we have, but we're up against a wall. We really, as certain people have said, need to focus on partnerships between the developers, the cities, the county, and the school system. I think there's a lot of opportunity for outside the box thinking that could benefit everybody. The last thing I'll say is what we face currently, even with our current numbers, are potentially putting students in portable trailers in order to meet our state requirement to provide education. And I cannot think of anything more ironic than to have thousands of people move into our community because of how wonderful it is and invest in these beautiful homes on beautiful locations. And as a result of that growth, their children are going to school in a trailer. So I want just to reach out and say, let's have more conversations. Let's look at ideas. Let's talk to the builders. Let's talk to the commissions. Let's talk to the leadership at all levels. And I appreciate the work that you all do as a public servant. I know you sacrifice your time and a lot of your hair probably too. And I appreciate all you do. And I do look forward to working together, hand in hand with the council, with the mayors, with the developers to move forward with some unique plans. Thank you.
Mr. Fulbright, I'd like to thank you, for one, for being here tonight and speaking on this. I probably will speak on behalf of everyone here up here on this planning commission. Personally been on this commission for a few years now, and every month we ask a lot of times no response from the school system. So I applaud you for being here and expressing your concerns. I'm glad to finally hear from schools on that, and I hope going forward we can continue.
We have, as a board, expressed to our staff that this is something that they need to quit dropping the ball on. And to be honest, it's not our current staff that has been the issue. We've had just a lot of miscommunications over the years and conveying that as a board. So thank you.
I'm going to be as anticlimactic as possible because you just had that nice round of applause. But if you don't mind, I'd like to maybe ask you a question to come back up real quick, please. First of all, I want to echo what the chairman said, an appreciation of your presence tonight. I know that several years ago, we started reaching out to the school system with regards to any development that comes through for plan of services requesting comment, and up until very recently we've received nothing. And so the fact that you're here tonight I think is an evidence of a step in the right direction. But the plan of services is important because on that it has water, sewer, police, fire and rescue, and refuse, parks and rec, wastewater, street department, and school system. All those entities are listed. And so all of those departments, all of those entities have the opportunity to review developments, provide an opinion whether or not they can service them or not. And up until this point, we've received nothing from the Murray County school system, number one. Number two, I appreciate and understand your predicament. It is a very difficult predicament that you're in with respect, knowing the need with regards to capacity and volume and not having the ability to input on that need or to fund that need. But you have to understand from a City of Columbia perspective, and I've talked to you about this, and I'm appreciative of those conversations that we get to have because, again, that hasn't always been the case since I've been mayor. But over the last 5 to 7 years, Spring Hill has experienced exponential growth. It's grown at a rapid rate. And over the last 2 years, Columbia has seen that similar growth. And so essentially, we are in the same period of exponential growth that Spring Hill saw over the last 5 to 7 years. And, it's not a matter of it's coming. We know that its growth is here. It's not on its way. It's here. Not only is it here, it's already starting to move south to Mount Pleasant, Culleoka, other areas south of Columbia. But from a Columbia perspective, over the last 5 to 7 years, when the city of Spring Hill was growing at their exponential rate, what is happening? Well, they have new schools being built to provide the classroom that are so desperately needed for that exponential growth, and that's a good thing. I believe that should have been the case. And now Columbia finds itself in that same period of exponential growth. And not only is the school system and/or county commission not funding new schools for Columbia residents, they're in fact closing schools and tearing schools down, which is currently happening on West 7th Street with regards to McDowell. So it is a little bit of a slap in the face for Columbia to now be told by the school system, hey, we don't have a plan. We don't have an ability to fund this need going forward. We've got to figure something out. Now it's time to come together. Well, the coming together part should have happened a long time ago, prior to your involvement, Mr. Fulbright, prior to my involvement. That should have happened many, many years ago, and it didn't. And unfortunately, because it didn't, we're now seeing the issues that we have today with growth and development and not having the school's infrastructure to support it. And so, it almost sounds as like some of the undertones that I'm hearing from some of the various Facebook posts and calls and things of that nature is as though the school system is requesting a moratorium on growth for the county, which even if that's not the request, that's certainly the implication and or the result, because if you're suggesting there's no plan and therefore this development must die, well, okay, then that's a development that goes down. Well, what about the next one and then the next one? Are we just going to continue to deny them because the school's issues that are prevalent today, were prevalent yesterday, and will be prevalent tomorrow exist? And so I'm of the opinion that a growing community is much better than a dying community. And I don't want this community to start dying because we don't have the ability from a school situation to keep up. And so I would just request that conversation continue. Mr. Fulbright, I think that, again, I hope that you're having these same conversations with the municipal governing bodies for the city of Spring Hill and the city of Mount Pleasant, in addition to Columbia, and for that matter, also in the county. I mean, I understand the growth in the county, residential growth is also moving at a very rapid pace. I mean, is the school system putting all entities on notice of its inability to keep up with the growth? Because I think that's what it's going to take if this whole come together is going to happen, is that the school system is going to have to be articulating its message so that the residents know and can articulate to the county commissioners what the need is. Because at the end of the day, the city of Columbia doesn't have the ability to control what happens to our schools or school systems. All we have the ability to do is control what happens to the growth. And so with respect to the school systems needing to understand that, or whomever, it's just a situation I think that everybody's going to have to be on board with. So I thank you for taking those comments. I know you've heard me say that before, but again, Columbia is a community that's moving forward and growing, and to now be told that we don't have an ability to grow anymore because of a lack of schools, that's a huge problem.
Thank you. With all due respect, Mayor Mulder, I appreciate your comments. I do want to point out a few things just to set the record straight. The schools have been negligent in coming and expressing their concerns before the Planning Commission. And one of the complaints that I've heard is that the schools, it doesn't matter what we say. If a development is going to be profitable and beneficial for any of the counties or cities, it's going to happen. But we're still obligated to provide those educational resources. So I understand that, and I understand why that happens. The other thing is, you ask us what this will have on the schools. Well, we could send you a recording every time that says we don't have the space. But that hasn't stopped anything in the past, and I don't see that it'll stop anything in the future. As well, I don't think it should. I think finding ways to fund these schools is the more important issue. Along those lines, you'd mentioned the schools in the county, how they funded the schools. Well, I do want to take a minute to say the schools have no ability to fund any project. If a project is built, it's because of the county commission. If a project is not funded and allowed to decay, it's at the county commission's feet. We don't have the ability to provide those funds. And I am glad that you used my quote from earlier in what you were saying, is I don't expect growth to stop. I even made the reference that there's a pipeline of projects still coming, and you said that same exact thing. So we're definitely on the same page there. And this is my last point. As far as the plans for Columbia, if you've taken a look at our 5-year plan, which I'm sure you have, once we get the Spring Hill High School knocked out, we have other things on the agenda. We have a North Columbia school. We have a rebuilt school at the site of Baker Elementary. and we have a school in Culleoka, and then also either a new elementary or an addition in Mount Pleasant. So we do realize where the growth has been over the last 5 to 7 years, and we do see where it's going. So we want to make sure that we are on the same page. I think it's going to take strong county leadership, strong city leadership, and strong school leadership to make sure that that happens going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Fulbright.
Thank you.
I know there were some candidates here in the crowd tonight for county commissioners. Hope you heard Mr. Fulbright's concerns from the funding sources on that. So next one tonight on our list is going to be Rebecca Strahan.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Strahan. I don't have any of these technical things, but I just wanted to say that I believe in capitalism, and I think that the developer is doing what's right for them, and seems like they're, you got to get all that you can out of a place, but that's awesome. But we also as citizens have a right to be heard and push back a little bit, because as you work together, then that creates a better project. So if it's or a better outcome. So I wrote it down, but I'm sorry. So I'm not so much against reasonable growth, and I think most of us are like that. It's just that uncontrolled stuff is kind of scary, and it seems unwise. And it's, if it benefits the developer over and above the citizen, it's just going to cause resentment and anger and stuff like that. And so I appreciate all that. I didn't realize you guys were volunteers, so I appreciate your time that you take and letting us to be heard. And I pray that you all have the wisdom and the strength of character to make the right decision for the people of Murray County who currently live here, who were born and raised here, raised their kids here, and those who moved here to get away from the rat race of the big city life. We humbly ask for you to defer this and give it more consideration, and so we can have a beautiful place to come to. I mean, the picture that they put on Columbia Bluffs, the main one, is so beautiful, but when they get done with it, it won't be beautiful anymore, I'm afraid. And I don't know, I just pray that you will listen and think about these things. I'm sure that you are. I'm not insinuating that you're not, but anyway, I just ask you to defer it, and thank you for hearing us.
Thank you, Ms. Strahan, for your time being here tonight. Next person on our list is going to be Tina Sego. Sego.
I would echo the appreciation for you men and Dr. McLean, and even you, Sandra. I appreciate you so much being here. So I know what I am going to talk about will sound very selfish because it's my own life on my own farm. But I think that my situation is multiplied throughout this whole process with other families as well. Their details just might be a little bit different. We live on 106 acres just west of the proposed development. We have a very private place to live. It's idyllic. I mean, we're very privileged to be able to steward what we have been given. Less than a football field away from my back door, there are going to be over 50 new homes. And that's just in one portion where it touches our property. It will go around a whole perimeter. I've been told, and let me just also say that we should not feel any disdain or even hatred toward these developers. I have a great amount of respect for them. I've met them, and I think they're very good people. We just hate what they are proposing. And so one thing that Joshua Gibbs has told me is that this project is probably going to take about 10 years to complete. My youngest son, my youngest of 7, is 9 years old. That means probably his entire life at home with us for the next 10 years is going to be construction in our backyard. And that's just one family. That's just one family. The technical thing that applies to our family, we have flooded out of our farm. We have a bridge to our farm, the only in and out that we have. We have flooded out of our farm 7 times in the last 4.5 years. Prior to that, over the 9 years previous to 2017, I think there were 3 floods over that bridge. I think that the issues that we're going to face downstream of this development are going to be huge for our family and this community. Even Riverside Elementary, who faces flooding, every time we flood, it kisses their doorsteps as well. So I just things to consider. I'm not a civil engineer. I know that there are steps that are taken, but the reality of it is there's a lot of pavement and asphalt that's going to be happening next door. So thank you.
Next person on our list is going to be Mark Sego. And I do appreciate everyone's response. I know everybody's very supportive of what everybody's saying here, but maybe hold our applause till the end so we can get through everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us, giving us the opportunity to talk. Mark Sego, live at 236 Bear Creek Pike. That's my better hole. Fundamentally, we are here to debate the definition of what is good for Columbia. We all have opinions on how change, like a 400-door development, will affect us individually and as a community. It's one thing to live right next to such a thing, another to feel its impact as you drive to and from work, another to grapple with the impending infrastructure challenges of water, sewer, and other services, another to evaluate and quantify the ecological impact on the Duck River has been mentioned. If we're thoughtful, we will even try to envision what a development like this will look like, not just in 2 years or 10 years, but 50 years, when our children and their children are tasked with living in the midst of and managing the challenges of this and other developments. Regardless, we would all, as has been said, in some way profess to want what is good. It's been said that one ought to live near or even directly next to the land one develops, because only then can you fully feel the consequences of your ideas. The further you are geographically from something, the more difficult it is to say what is good or, for that matter, bad about change, for you lack the ability to see the details, the contours of the change in question. I would, for example, struggle to say what is good for Tampa, Florida, simply by virtue of the fact that I don't live there. There's a reason people want to come to Columbia, many of them. Quintessential rolling, idyllic countryside, the pace of life, the culture, the people, the growing downtown, the urban nature of our walkable downtown. Great potential by almost anyone's definition remains. We all know of communities not too far from here, just north of us perhaps, where that potential is essentially gone, used up, wasted even. Developments have taken shape, much like these, and for many generations to come, those developments will in turn shape those communities. I imagine many who live there would love to have a do-over. With decisions of this magnitude, there is, for all practical purposes, no second chance in our lifetimes. No piece of land is an island. What does a development do to its neighbors? What value and uses are taken from adjacent property owners and the city at large, never to be regained? What is the real long-term impact on the Duck River and its watershed? Questions like these, as we have heard tonight, are various and sundry, and they deserve to be answered before further development happens. The County Commission, City Planning Commission, City Council, you are the gardeners of this community. What is planned by virtue of decisions made in the coming months and years will, for many generations to come, shape our lives, all of our lives in this town. Whose definition of the good will abide? Will we look at our garden with great pride, or will we be torn with regret, longing for a second chance? I challenge Coulter. I've heard your representatives say that you care about what happens in Columbia. Here's a chance to prove it. I know for a fact, everyone in this room knows for a fact, there is great demand for 2, 5, 10-acre developments, 10-acre lots that people can create homesteads, re-envision the good. You will almost certainly make less money, Coulter. But if you're just about maximizing profit, well, that's where the problem is. But you'll be doing the right thing, in my opinion, by working more closely to align that vision of that project with the vision of the good of many, perhaps most of those that live and breathe and work and grow our families in this beautiful little garden we call Columbia. Thank you.
Next person on the list is Mr. Jerry Strahan.
Hi there, I'm Jerry Strahan. That was my wife, just saw a couple folks ago. I live on Patterson Drive. My wife was just speaking, and I'm running for county commissioner in District 1. I own this problem just like you do. There'll be some here that'll discuss traffic, discuss environmental. I can tell you as an owner of a home on Patterson Drive, it's almost impossible now to even turn toward 65. We're going to fix that with a light if we put in this subdivision, but there are many retail places, eateries, Hardee's, and McDonald's, et cetera, that are going to be affected just down the road some, especially with all the traffic lights that we're going to have to put in with that. So I think there's something that we need to do to consider Bear Creek before we make the decisions to build. And I know there's some intentions, and there's been talk about widening Bear Creek. And I know there's talk about a number of subdivisions that are going to be on Bear Creek. If we could just wait a minute, let me say from a personal point, if I could, and then there was a half joke made about, well, I'm not running for county commissioner. You know why folks are running for county commissioner? Because the place is a mess. The schools are a mess. The roads are a mess. We saw, those who've lived here a while, we have an example right down the street. We're scared to death we're going to have another Spring Hill mess here. It's nothing, we're not talking about Orlando, Florida. We're talking about Spring Hill now, this beautiful community that we own and love. Let's fix it before it's broken. Randy, my dad was a builder. You build a strong foundation before you ever start building the building. We're building the building before we put the foundation in. We're not trying to put off things. Growth's going to happen. Growth is good. Overcrowding's not. I attend all the meetings for the commissioners, and you hear people from school systems get up. We can't guarantee you that your kid will be in the same school 2 years in a row. There's nothing right about that. Whose fault is it? It doesn't matter whose fault it is. We have to fix it. We own it now. We can blame you can blame us, you can blame somebody else, but it doesn't change anything. That's where we are today, and we've got to fix it. And we got to fix it for the next generations, not for just today. My hope is that we can sit down sometime with the right people, look at this development, but look at Murray County as a whole. Look at what's best for Murray County. I had a luxury, on my 3 minutes is probably up, for the last 15 years to be a funeral director in Murray County. I know the people of Murray County. They're great people. They're wonderful people. And I know you guys love them as well as I do because you're them. Just know that there's 15 of us running because we have the same frustrations you do, and we're not going to get paid any more than you are. We care. We want to make the change. Let's get a board. Let's get it fixed. School board, county commission, let's don't blame each other. Let's not take pride in it's your fault, not mine. Let's fix it. Thank you. Thanks, Randy.
Next person on the list is Mr. Dennis Farrell.
Good afternoon. I live at 109 Elliott Court, Columbia, And I am here as a concerned citizen, and my concern, you're going to find, really deals with water. And, you know, ever since I moved here about 35 years ago, I love to kayak, I love to canoe. I therefore have kind of kept track of what goes on with the Duck River and its depth, and I keep track of it by taking a look at the Columbia gauge. When I moved in here, it was usually running about 4 foot deep, and it'd kind of vary a couple feet each way, but it'd sort of run about there. This year, we'll be lucky if it runs over 2. It's running about 1.5, 2 is what it was last year. Folks, I'm here to tell you, we really are out of water. And the idea of let's put in homes so that we've got another 3,000 people who need water and fire and be able to have everything there. I have to tell you that right now we've got less water available and we are short. In October of 2009, TVA did a study of the future demand and said water on the Duck River between Shelbyville and Columbia could exceed supply. Well, that was with them expecting growth as they had seen it, not with the exponential growth that we see now. This was a repeat of the results of a 2001 study, and the executive director of the Duck River Development Agency, Doug Murphy, stated the region between the two cities is the only area in Tennessee Valley where demand is projected to be greater than supply. This was before the growth we've had. Doug also stated that had he not lowered the level of the Normandy Reserve to about half its level in 2007, the river would have been dry at the point at which Spring Hill takes water out of the river, some of which comes back to the Duck River watershed, some of which does not. It goes to the Harpeth watershed. We have additional problems, and again, it deals with water, and that is we have flash floods. They're created by covering the ground with buildings and pavement. The ground can no longer absorb the rainfall, which comes then as a runoff, and runoffs carry toxic chemicals and would increase the sedimentation in the Duck River. Now, you may not think that's a big problem at the moment, but Gabe mentioned earlier the diversity in the Duck River. I'd like to mention that the Duck River, the entire Duck River, has been designated as a mussel sanctuary by the TWRA, and therefore prohibiting the commercial harvest of mussels or any disturbance to their habitat. I got to tell you, I think the runoff of toxic chemicals and the increase of sedimentation that comes from the increase of flash floods is going to mess with their habitation. So I think we've got a serious problem that is far beyond us. And the problem is we're going to be out of drinking water. We're going to be out of water for doing much of anything. And at the same time, we're going to have problems of flash floods that are destroying the things around us. If this development, which seems to be about the largest one at the moment, goes forward, it's going to harm our opportunity to have water, to prevent flash floods, and it's going to destroy the ecology of the Duck River. Thank you.
I know we have several names on the list here tonight, and I do want to give everyone an opportunity to speak. You know, I would like to ask, just out of consideration, you know, if someone has already addressed your concerns, you know, I know we've heard the water concerns now, we've heard the road concerns, school concerns, obviously, you know, traffic, the density. So, you know, please just acknowledge that someone's already spoken on your behalf, and we can go on to the next one. I do appreciate that. Next person on our list is Megan Rice.
Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. My name is Megan Rice, and I live at 228 Patterson Drive. I am a new member to this community, having only moved here about 6 months ago, and I do not fully understand or have the full knowledge of all the issues that our community faces and infrastructure, schools, and I understand that's a long-standing issue that I'm just now trying to get involved in. One thing that I will say, again, I want to be brief, and Mr. Goetz, I don't want to disrespect what you have said about repeating problems that have already been brought into your attention, but my job in California was to study and survey ecological damages that happened due to anthropomorphic impacts. So, what you and I all do to our environment. I worked with NOAA, I worked with Scripps Institute of Oceanography. And unfortunately, my job happened after the damage had already been done. I did Santa Barbara oil spill, I worked with BP. And I think what you'll find is, interestingly enough, I'm not here to just say everything that man does impacts the environment negatively. Our reports did show that, you know what, this wasn't as big of a deal as we all thought. This didn't harm our ecosystems or our ecology as hard as we thought they might have. But I really do implore you to not let it get to that point, that I don't want to be doing the post hoc analysis to see what kind of damage we've already potentially done. So I would just love to ask that perhaps we take a minute and we do some environmental impact surveys prior. I'm not saying I do not want the development. I'm not saying that I have any angst or animosity. I'm saying let's take our time, let's be thoughtful. I think we all do want the development, but I would like to do a thoughtful and careful development. And so it is, if I could humbly ask, if we could defer the project until maybe more of those matters are sought through. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rice. Next person's Mr. Robert Graham.
Good evening, Commission, lady and gentlemen. I appreciate the time you're giving me. I just briefly want to touch on water. I won't repeat what he said, but we send, if I'm not mistaken, a 42-inch line of water to Spring Hill. We sell them water, and we got to look at our contract with them or maybe control the amount. And one other thing that study that the gentleman mentioned about water was not considered was right now on 31 is going to be the world's largest lithium battery plant, which is going to even use more water. That also must be considered for this project to be deferred until we do a study or at least recontract our water. Also, some of that water, after Spring Hill uses it, doesn't come back to us. It goes to Williamson County to be reprocessed. Why don't we get it back here and reprocess it? All right. Also, 4 years from now, if you look at Google United States drought map 2022, as of May 3rd, there's a little yellow spot just to the west of us by the Tennessee River, east of the Tennessee River. And that indicates this summer they're going to have very dry conditions there. It's coming this way. Water must be our main concern. Also, again, our schools, we all understand that, the shortages. The thing that scares me is we have fifth graders mixed with eighth graders. And as you all know, that can be volatile. We need at least 2 fire stations, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? Does anybody know? Not in the city. Is that with this annexation included in the city? We still won't need it?
That's correct. The fire department provides a comment on the plan of services that indicated that they could service this area based upon their specific investigation and research, as did, by the way, water, which since water continues to be a topic, I would also point out that Columbia Power and Water Systems is called on to comment on any development, and anytime they raise a red flag or issue with respect to water, I can promise you we pause what's happening or we pause what is happening and we speak with them and they come here and address it. And on this one, so that you know, assuming that you don't have access to the plan of services response, the CPWS is also authorized their perspective.
All right. But I don't know if you got a card in the mail. Well, you don't live in Spring Hill, but I know people in Spring Hill that just got a card in the mail. They can't water their grass starting Fridays. So, okay. And then the side roads, Mount Olivet and this other road, Iron Bridge Road, please consider doing something to them with this plan, more so than just adding a right turn lane. We got to do something with the shoulders. We don't want another accident like happened with them children on Carter's Creek Pike where they went off and got killed a few years ago, and then we added a railing. You know, all of us here are for growth, but we got to grow slowly. It's like, you know, Columbia is like a teenager right now eating a box of cereal a day. We gotta control this. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Next on the list is Miss Alice Sego.
Good afternoon. My name is Ella Sego. Both of my parents already spoke, but I just wanted to say a few words on behalf of the younger population of Murray County. I've lived here for all of the 20 years of my life, and I hope to live here for the rest of my life. If there's room for my children, I'd love to raise them here too. Though I'm young, for the last 2 years I've attended school up in Chicago, where I've been studying the structure of cities through the Equitas program in urban leadership at Wheaton College. I can confidently say at least 2 things through my urban studies, that Columbia is a really good city, and this development is not a good idea. In all of the classes, conferences, and conversations that I've had with professors and urban developers and researchers, I've gained an understanding of what a good city looks like. A good city promotes the flourishing of its community, grows organically, and reflects the desires and needs of its people. Though Columbia is most certainly not perfect, any look into the history of our city would tell you that. It is a good place. It has good roots, and it has a rare community that has grown, for the most part, slowly and organically over time. There is so much good here, and I don't want it to be lost. Many of my college friends have visited Columbia and have commented on how wonderful this place is, how Columbia actually feels like a place instead of the faceless suburbs in which they grew up. Which brings me to my second point. I've spent the last 2 years looking at Chicago and its suburbs and the towns on its outskirts. I've studied the bad choices that literally ruined some of these places beyond repair. I've seen the long-term effects of senseless development. And what I've seen in Illinois is starting to happen down here in my own county, and that breaks my heart. People who aren't really concerned with the flourishing of our community see a chance to make money and rapidly grow our town. And the people in our community don't realize it before it's too late. I could go into a plethora of technical ways that this development goes against time-tested principles of good urban planning, but a lot of people are already talking about that here tonight. Let it suffice to say that there are many young men and women my age who care deeply for this town and want the best for it. At this point, I hope that my younger siblings even can grow up in a Columbia and a Murray County with some of its identity left. Everyone my age that is aware of this project has expressed concern, if not outrage. The truth is, our generation will be dealing with the long-term effects of this project and others like it. The issues of water, roads, education, and cultural heritage that are ignored in this development will fall on our shoulders. And we ask that you make it a little easier for us. Thank you.
Next that signed up is Mr. Greg Gamble, but I'm going to skip applicants so they come to him. Is this Gary Davenport, maybe? Joey Davenport.
I am going to be hitting on sort of the same topic about the roads, but I'm just going to give you a little bit different perspective, or my perspective. I live on 1142 Lofton Road that comes right off of Iron Bridge Road. And I work in Mount Pleasant. It takes me about 25 to 30 minutes to get to work. And it's because I go on the flow of the traffic it's not very heavy that direction, But the other direction coming to Columbia, I mean, it's packed coming up here. Constant flow, constant flow. And then on my way home, it takes me an extra 10 or 15 minutes to get home because I hit right there at Bear Creek Pike and I'm stopped. Can't get home, and I don't live 4 miles from my house. And from Spring Hill down, solid traffic, stopped. And that perspective is, I mean, I know gas is what it is today, but everybody stopped. Their cars are idling. They're not going anywhere, and we're just sitting there wasting gas. And the thing about Spring Hill is, my son had a friend up there. They live just a few miles in one of the subdivisions. Well, not even a few miles. It takes him 25 minutes to get to Lowe's. And it takes me that long to get to Mount Pleasant right now because I'm going in the opposite flow of traffic in the mornings. So it's going to be a huge undertaking for us to do this project and do it responsibly. I mean, the infrastructure has to be there first. I mean, the proof is what happened in Spring Hill already. We see what happened to them. Let's don't repeat the same mistake and put Murray County behind the 8 ball. We need to stay ahead of it and do the responsible things first. And that's all the comments I've got to say. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Ray Jeter.
Commissioner, thank you, Chairman, Mayor, for the opportunity to speak today. I will be very brief, but I thank you for the opportunity for hearing this and letting the public speak about it. Number 6 in your staff report states that there's adequate schools and roads. You have heard or will hear by way of public comment that is simply not the truth. Even though the school board doesn't have an official position on this particular plan, there is a representative who you heard from earlier that will state and has stated that the school system is not adequate for this growth and this development. There are county commissioners here that will be willing to inform you that there isn't adequate funding to build the schools needed for this development. I haven't heard from the City of Columbia's police department on their staffing needs to accommodate this development or the fire department. In your staff report, you point out that the sewer system will need upgrades to support the development and adequate water supply has not been determined. You have also heard tonight that the county roads and even the state highway cannot support this growth in this development. And number 3 in your staff report states that there will be no adverse effects on the adjoining property owners. The property tax alone to support this development will greatly affect the adjoining property owners and all of Murray County. The stormwater runoff, which you've heard tonight, will also affect the neighboring properties. We, the people of Murray County, we humbly ask that you defer this or deny this until these concerns and other concerns be mitigated and or resolved. Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Sam Goodman.
Howdy, folks. How y'all? Appreciate you letting me come up here and talk to you. My folks have been here since the Revolutionary War. Got a chance. I ain't that old yet, but I've got a chance to see a lot of growth in this town. I've enjoyed it, and most of it's been very well. Just like any place, not all of it's perfect. We got a large responsibility to our citizens, you folks, to guide us in a lot of things and show us and keep us informed of where we need to be and what we need to do. I think these developers that's come in here could probably pick another direction other than what they're going with these houses, so many of them, and do a better thing and make just as much money as they want to do, or maybe even better. What I'd like to see on my side too, and my granddaddy showed me the same, what's it going to look like in 100 years? I've got to see a lot of this. It's been sitting here for 100 years in our community. I'd like for it to look that way again. I don't think these little houses are going to help that. I don't think they'll be here then either. If they are, they'll be on the ground. I'd like for you folks to think real hard and maybe these people to rethink their situation on how and what they could build on this property to make it better. other than just a quick fix for it. Seems to be a quick fix. I live on Bear Creek Pike on 376, 388, 396. My family lives there. I have to pull out, and I'm an old man getting there, and I get to see I'm number one, they say, when I'm trying to pull out a lot of times because I'm a slow. But that old traffic's pretty rough. It's going to get rougher if we put this stuff in, of course. I thank you for your time. I just want you to rethink this situation and think through it very well. I know you will, just as my comments to it. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Goodman. Next that signed up is Randy Kilborn.
Thank you, Randy. I've got some questions more than comments. I've listened to everybody so far, and I've got some questions, if that's fine to just ask these. Right?
Yeah, if you want, we can take down your questions and maybe we'll all address them after the.
Well, so, yeah.
Yeah, or do you want to, if there are specific questions maybe are to staff or about this development itself, maybe if you want to take that time to go by the office and meet with Mr. Keltner or Mr. Brass or.
You wouldn't, maybe I could just quick run them by you and see what you think?
How many questions? Yeah.
Well, just a couple.
Yeah, go right ahead, please.
Yeah. The TWRA is big in the community out here, and I was wondering if they have been involved in studying this watershed, the Duck River, the Bear Creek watershed, and there is also some small, at least one that I know of, a small branch that comes through this property that nobody's mentioned, and it comes right by a little acre of land that I got on the Duck River right there. And I feel that, maybe that's going to end up being nothing more than a drainage ditch, this little branch. But has TWRA been involved in your guys' request for information?
TWRA typically does not get involved in any kind of request like this. It's the Tennessee Department of Environmental and Conservation.
Is that right?
They're the ones that review and approve the plans as
Yeah.
well as us.
Yeah.
Does, but TWRA typically doesn't get involved in construction.
Okay. And see, this is my first time here, and I hope I can attend more because this has been enlightening for me. But are we at the point here where things have been taken care of, like floodplain surveys on that property and actual surveys where there's a map of where all these houses and locations are specifically, like surveyed stuff? Are we at that, or this will move forward after this meeting?
Well, yes, we do have a flood insurance rate map for the entire city. We're actually conducting with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers a restudy of the Duck River itself.
Yeah.
And some other basins.
But this is an initial meeting here, and there will be others that follow this. And really, this owner has bought this land. He approached us, and he's wanting a change in the zoning after purchase. That is a fact.
He's wanting to change the zoning if it should be annexed.
Okay. And maybe this is just one question. How often does a developer come into a community like this and buy a piece of land for $25,000 an acre and then come to you all to get it zoned for his benefit? How often is that a common thing that people do this and approach you all, or is this something unusual?
I have seen it before, but I have not had any confirmation that they have bought the property.
Randy, what do you think?
I can actually answer this. I'm a real estate attorney. Developers typically don't buy a property. They may work with the owner, develop it. The particular owner of this property is
Yeah, okay. And one other comment here. So far, it's all been, we're all against this so far, if you're keeping track.
Thank
You
you.
know, we're all,
Thank you, Mr. Gilmore.
you know, nobody's for it, so maybe somebody will show up.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Next we have Mr. Or Gene Parker.
No, I'm sorry. I did not know that's what I just thought we were signing up.
Okay, no worries, no worries. Scott Prinz, I believe, maybe.
I want to thank you for your time. My name is Scott Prinz. I live at 749 Mount Olivet Road. I don't know how many of you go up and down Mount Olivet Road in your travels throughout this county, but my biggest concern with this development is the fact that I do live in the county. We're looking at annexing this property and potentially developing hundreds and hundreds of homes with maybe a couple thousand more vehicles added to the traffic flow. Much of that is going to take a shortcut down Mount Olivet Road to drop their children off at Howell Elementary School or possibly make the break out to Bear Creek Pike. Like I said, I live on Mount Olivet Road. Mount Olivet Road, the speed limit is 45 miles an hour, which is far too fast for that road. That road is an unsafe road as it is, with the hills, the blind spots, no shoulders. We have had 2 fatalities on that little country road directly across the road from our house. We've had life flight helicopters landing in our neighbor's yard to extricate people to the hospital. And I am concerned that if this property is annexed into the city, my road just get kind of left off, because after all, we're in the county. It's not the city's problem. And I'm left to deal with the traffic and it along with my neighbors. And it's just going to take a bad situation, in my opinion, and make it worse for us. Second issue I'd like to address, which Mr. Farrell had touched upon, was with this development, we are taking away basically the permeability of the soil and replacing it with homes. We're replacing it with sidewalks. We're replacing it with streets, and we're replacing it with drainage, which I'm going to assume is going to empty directly into the Duck River. I worked during the paddling season for an outfitter on the Duck River, and we have seen over the last several years that when we do have rains, not necessarily even in Columbia, just up in Spring Hill, the river rises rapidly and it stays up high for a period of time until the runoff from the tributaries in Spring Hill empty into the Duck River and flow on downstream. My concern is a development like this is just going to add more water. We're going to be impacting the riverside area even more. We've got a dam there that is obsolete, is not doing its job, and we're just going to be exacerbating a problem that we already face. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Prince. Next is Cynthia Lunn.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know that's what I.
No worries. Thank you. Howard Parker.
All of my objections to this project have previously been addressed.
Thank you. Tim Lunn.
What I had to say was pretty much what already done been said.
Thank you. Chuck Mahon. Not seeing a particular. Thank you. Najee Gurgis. Thank you. Sue Stevenson.
No, she said it.
There she is.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Mayor, members of the Commission. My name is Sue Stevenson. I serve on the Murray County Commission. I represent District 6, and I also serve on the Murray County Regional Planning Commission. One thing I want to say quickly is the elephant in the room that keeps getting shoved under the rug is density. I think most people would agree density is the real issue. And only you have the power to control that density. And that, I think, is our biggest problem. I would say by far most of the developments coming before you are high density. I have in front of me the staff report that you were given as the Planning Commission. And if for no other reason, this is why you should vote against this development. I'm reading directly from the staff report that staff gave the Planning Commission. The criteria for the Planning Commission, whether the proposed change would be consistent with the intent, goals, objectives, policies, guiding principles of your adopted plan, it is not. Whether the proposed change would be compatible with the existing land use pattern, it is not. Whether the proposed change would create substantial adverse impacts, it will. The plan, the proposed comprehensive plan, it's written here, may be consistent with the guiding principles of Connect Columbia. There's no maybe about it. It is not. If it was compatible with your comprehensive plan, you wouldn't have to amend it. No PUD shall be approved unless all plans for development are found to be consistent with the current issues of the general plan of Columbia as adopted. It is not. Will it be consistent with the current effective general plan? It will not. If the comprehensive plan amendment proposed by the applicant is adopted, the proposed PUD master plan will be consistent with the Connect Columbia. It's only going to be consistent if you amend it. And you keep amending, and that's why we have this problem over and over. Without a comprehensive plan amendment, the proposed PUD master plan with a partial RM1 high-density residential base and 4-acre commercial component is inconsistent with Connect Columbia. Most of the subject property is currently classified as suburban neighborhood. The suburban neighborhood character area matrix does not support high-density residential development. It also states under your criteria for rezoning, it has been determined that the conditions affecting the area have changed to a sufficient extent to warrant an amendment to the area's general plan. But yet right down below, it says most of the subject property is not located within an area of change. That is completely contradictory, but it is not in the area of change. The rezoning is in agreement with the general plan. It is not. The availability of adequate schools, roads, parks, wastewater, that infrastructure is not all in place. And by your own words in this report, wastewater is a concern. Again, the character area does not support the land use depicted in the applicant's PUD master plan. It says that the relevant character area matrices indicate that the development pattern is established and changes to the overall character of the area should rarely occur. The current comprehensive plan designation for most of the subject property is suburban neighborhood. However, high-density housing and commercial land uses proposed by the applicant are not consistent with the Connect Columbia without a plan amendment. It's not consistent unless you amend it, and therein lies the problem.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. I let you go over 1 minute already. Thank you so much.
Sir?
I've let you go over a little bit.
Okay, I couldn't hear you. Sorry.
Next that signed up is Linda Waller. No, good. Sorry, I'm going to do my best on this. It's in cursive. Sharon Matthews, maybe? Sheila? Oh, sorry. Mr. Jason Watley?
A friend of mine just said that everything's already been said, so maybe I shouldn't speak, but it was too late. So here we are. I just want to address a couple of things that haven't been said specifically. I want to focus a little bit more on the schools just for a second. I'll make it quick. In the next 10 years, it's projected that 13 of our 21 schools will be at or over capacity. Right now, a memorandum just came out in January of this year from the school system that said we need 3 new schools in the next 5 years, each at $33,500,000 apiece. Another $15 million renovation, in addition to several other tens of millions of renovations. And you may be wondering, why the heck am I talking about schools when we're talking about a development here? And we know the connection. And you may be saying, well, we don't have that authority and that's really not in our purview. And I understand that. But when you look at the law under our zoning code, 3.18.7B6, the availability of adequate school is the first thing, is the first consideration. Then roads, then parks, then wastewater treatment, so on and so forth. And again, I respect very much what Mayor Mulder had to say about this. In fact, I agree with a big part of that. That Spring Hill got the benefit of this early on, and now we're having to deal with it in Columbia. And you may say, well, we can't stop growth for this. We may not be able to stop it, but we can nudge it and we can pause it. And we need to do that until we figure out the answer. The fact of it is, if we don't do that, what we're doing is we're putting unfunded mandates on every one of these people. We're putting unfunded mandates on people in Hampshire and Cullioca and Santa Fe who aren't even anywhere close to this because they're going to have to pay for these schools. And just a few more things very quickly. You may ask, well, what can we do? You can pause, but you can do more than that. You can use your voice, which is a very important voice, a very powerful voice, to call for something new, something different. It is time that our school board, that our county commission, and that our city finally work together for our schools. And I call on this body tonight to defer or deny action on this particular development, and instead call for a joint task force for education in Murray County that consists of stakeholders in all areas of government so that we can know when these kind of developments are proposed, whether we can handle it or not. Thank you.
Next that signed up, I believe, on Big Bear Bluff is going to be Alice Johns.
Okay, with the current zoning that they have, if you look at the county zoning, it's A2, and it says, in addition, the primary objective of the A2 district is to prevent undesirable urban sprawl and to exclude land uses which demand a level of urban services which are impossible or uneconomical to provide. The following regulations shall apply. Our schools, I am a school employee. We are bleeding out. In the schools who would service this area between their elementary, middle, and high schools that they feed, there are at least 20 teacher positions, not assistant, teacher positions missing. Part of those positions are not listed because we have a computer in the room where someone remotely is teaching and a person is sitting in that classroom with a child. That's not what's best practice for our children in Murray County that are going to live here and be here. Second, our police department and our fire department are working shorthanded. As employees, as part of the city, employers, what are you doing for your employees? Because if the police department is fully staffed at 12 officers right now, and they only have 5 working at night, on a night, are you providing for the safety of our family members? What about the fire department? There needs to be 4 people on that truck to go in a house safely for your child or your child or your children. Are they going to do it if your child's inside? Yes. But at what cost to them? Are they going to come home to us because you chose to put the cart before the horse and not make sure that we are staffed? Is there any fault of the police chief or the fire chief? Not at all. We are losing people to other counties. We are losing people to other professions. Our school alone this year has had 2 employees leave the profession because we're tired. You know, I've been out in the other room and upstairs dealing with issues because I didn't have time to deal with it while I was still there. Do I love what I do? Yes. Do I want to continue what I do? Yes. But that's not what's best for Murray County to say we're running shorthanded. We're pushing people to their extreme. They're not getting days off. We need to see the ability to adequately cover things before we add on more. Can this person, whoever owns this property, build as is? Yes. But we don't need to annex it into the city where it's our problem for the services and for the roads. I live in Sunnyside. We have flooding issues that need to be addressed. We have roads that need to be addressed. If we have so much personnel, why isn't that done already? Because I'm already in the city. I would just ask that you seriously look at this and look at the actual numbers and not just okay, we're checking a box. It needs to be brought out to where everybody's in the same room, like Mr. Watley said, on the same page for what's best for Murray County. Because it's not that I don't want people coming here. I love having people here. But I want it to be safe and I want it to be productive. And I don't want it to be where we are the bottom of the state or in the bottom of the nation in our schools, in our police, and in our fire. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Next, we have Jeremy Serafino. Forgive me if I pronounced that incorrectly.
Thank you. My name is Jeremy Serafino. I live at 1307 Iron Bridge Road. The location I live at is on the curve between Lofton and Deer Run, or Running Deer. The first 3 years that I lived there were 7 accidents, and unfortunately, one of those was the death of a deputy sheriff. This may be on the west side of Iron Bridge, but it doesn't mean that the flow of traffic isn't going to come east. The traffic studies that we looked at, those are traffic studies that there are improvements that need to be done now, not when we have additional, homes and cars. I don't know how many cars this is going to bring, but we need to do those things now, not later, or not for future development. Also, I think we can look at other communities like Triune, some of our neighboring cities, where they put mandates or declarations out there where new home development needed to have 5 acres for their homes and not 1/10 of an acre. If it's a 5 acre house with $1 million home, they'll still make money, but at least we'll preserve the green space and the beauty of our city, and we'll slow down the growth. And then to the mayor, your comment earlier, what are we going to do? We can decline these things. We can deny these things until we find builders that will invest in the school system. Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Jason Gillum.
Everything's been said that I think that I should let you rest your time. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Gillum. Next, we have Ms. Kelly Coyne.
I think the same is true.
Thank you. Next, we have Mary Martin. And I believe that wraps up everyone that signed up on the list. I appreciate everyone being here tonight. That takes it into, discussion on our part. So I would like to, I'll start conversations because I want you guys to know that we don't take this lightly. I personally spent a lot of personal time reviewing this, countless hours at night. Last night again at my daughter's gymnastics class. It's a good hour and a half that I can study it even further. So lots of time is spent on this, and I too have some concerns that I would express. I want this good opportunity for the developer to hear these as well. So, one being, sorry. Yeah, we can, Mr. Gamble. I know you, Mr. Gamble, have been, I think, at a townhouse meeting on this stuff, and obviously you've heard the concerns here tonight. So
Yes.
I hope you've been listening on those as well. So, as I was saying here, I've been studying a lot myself too, and so some of my concerns that I've had, and take notes of them or whatever, we can discuss them. But one would be the density. Obviously, that is a concern of mine. With it being going all the way to RS6, and very much the bulk of I know you label a lot of those, or we have some estate lots, but even the estate lots barely exceed even the RS10 zoning of what this just fairly small lots today, and it's only I think maybe 91 of the 790 lots that are at that level. The next concern I have would be, pertaining to the illustrations of the homes that were there. at least, and I'm not an engineer, so forgive me on this, but at least the image of them with the two-car garages, one with a 16-foot door, like a 9-foot door, and didn't like they could fit on a what I would call 50-foot wide lot. So I'm not a professional on that, but they did look like several of the homes, at least proposed, may not fit the lots. That's just something that jumped out at me that was a concern that I saw. Obviously, infrastructure was a concern pertaining to, and I applaud Mr. Fulbright being here on behalf of the schools tonight, to comment on that. And the sewer, we met with study session last week. We had Mr. Boshiers there expressing his concerns. I do know we have a letter here tonight, at least saying that, that there is adequate sewer there to service this, but still I have concerns myself too on that. So
we understand there need to be upgrades.
Sir?
We understand that there need to be upgrades to the sewer line.
To a sewer on that part.
That's correct.
And then, the amenities. I noticed that for a townhome, for a development of that size, you got 1,400 units, and once again, not an expert on this, but 2 pools up on the north side, several residential homes all the way down below, and all they got maybe is a field and a soccer field down there. So I'm not sure that the amenity package is adequate there, I guess, so several concerns I had there, density, all those things. So that kind of opens it up for at least to share with the concerns, I guess you could say. I wanted to.
Okay.
Please go.
Charlie did say, I'm sorry, the chairman did say it right on the amenities. Because you got one pool for your apartments, one right beside the townhome. So you've got, and this isn't saying what I'm for, telling you you've already heard, I'm looking more at those other parts. You'll have roughly 1,000 doors for one pool. And if you go down to your bottom toward Irons Bridge, that'd be almost a mile. Somebody have to get the pool up. So that was one of my questions was on that. Also, with this new ordinance that we're bringing in right now, it's going to be voted, I think, tomorrow or the next day. Your illustrations you had in your designs, half of them would not meet our new ordinance. 50-foot lot will not. Because there's a 16-foot door, not be over a third. It's a 48-foot house, and your side setback, 63 width. It's almost minimum you would do under our new ordinance. And as a PUD, we require them to meet our new ordinance. That is my concern right there. The lots are just those 50-foot lots, as the chairman said, and as some of the people already said, the density. But that's tight, 50 feet. And so that would be my other concern was that. And everybody's got their own opinion. And you've heard a lot of them tonight. And I commend you for standing up. I bet you can feel the heat on the back of your neck. The houses, especially the one story, there's nothing to it. It's just a plain Jane house. And we're talking about this being the elite subdivision in Columbia, whether it passes or not. That'd be nicer to upgrade at least your one stories. My biggest thing is this wouldn't pass. Would not meet our new ordinance that we're going to probably have in the next 2 or 3 months. And you've heard all the concerns that everybody's had. Now, how do we go forward with this? I say defer. Of course, we can't vote on this now. This gives you time to address the issues that I assume you were taking notes of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if we defer it and it comes back to us, you have to have an answer within 2 weeks. Getting on the next submittal or the automatic? Automatic. When do we get it? Get it at Homewood. That's 2 weeks. Right? I don't feel like that's going to give him enough time to really address it, for y'all to sit down and re-listen to the comment, get them put down what he has. And so is it automatically, or should we say, let's postpone it for another month, the next one? Have you heard it has to come next?
Yes, sir. You can only defer it one time, basically. You can't hold an applicant.
We can defer. As a matter of fact, Mr. Keltner relayed to us today that our commercial needs to go before the Architectural Review Board. really so that they can make a recommendation to the planning commission. We would like to defer this master plan for 1 month to give us the opportunity to go before the review board. We'll also take into consideration whatever comments you're willing to give us this evening. We appreciate having the feedback.
Well, so if it goes architect review, is it too late? We'll vote on it next.
Well, you would see it again next. Unless he asks for it.
Or
I
unless,
just don't want to
we
all of a
defer.
sudden we get the information and we got 1 week to look at it.
I don't-
Say we're volunteers.
the-
I spend a lot of time on it. You can ask my wife.
This is a big consideration. We understand what we're asking for, and we don't want you to feel like you're under the clock to make an approval. We are requesting the deferral for 1 month. We're going to go before the Architectural Review Committee for discussion of the commercial, and we'll take into consideration any comments or any input that you want to give us tonight.
How do we handle that?
I would. He's actually requesting for it. Yeah. So based upon the applicant's request for the deferral.
No, I know the deferral, but the comments. Do y'all re-listen to them? Give the comments that we heard, like the watershed. Is there enough water? I mean, environmental impact. You know, all those things that they were coming, the community was coming with roads. You know, how do you handle that? Or you just come up, or do you just answer? How do we get the people's answer questions answered?
I think
Sure.
some are already out there, and then there's some of them that would have to be addressed by the applicant.
Okay.
And-
how do they know what to address?
Well, I think that.
Based on what they heard.
Oh,
Yeah, I believe. I mean, Mr. Gamble, you obviously you heard tonight, and then this is recorded and I assume is available on YouTube. So you can always go back and read it or listen to it
Absolutely.
as well. So with
And we
that
can-
being said, the applicant requesting the deferral, I'm going to make the motion to grant that deferral to next month to allow time for.
I'm sorry.
And I'll do my best to address those questions at the next work session.
Yeah, to address all the concerns that you heard, along with.
Time. That's what I'm
It should.
You sure?
If not, we'll defer another month.
Defer it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with that being said, I would like to ask if anybody has anything to add to that.
How do the questions get answered before, like the water? The city's got your property bill, your revenue, more water. We get them the information on these questions.
They can pose the questions to staff or look through the material that's actually on the website now that has all the documents. So everything you see is available.
Their questions, I mean, they should phone them into you.
Thanks,
Well,
Ray.
I think.
Yeah. My voicemail is almost full already, but I think so. Mr. Gamble has heard all the questions. He'll provide a response back. That response he provides to us is attached to your items. So as soon as we get it, it's posted on the agenda. So all the materials that's for this particular request is all public record and it's all sitting on the website and anybody can.
Right.
Let me say something about the education. While school teacher, my daughter's school teacher, we have a technical review board. Two boards invited to come and make comments. The only comments I've ever seen is on transportation. They want to make sure the bus doesn't have to back up. Never anything about time, and we kind of request school board. We just get split on this panel. So I think we're at the end of the food chain. This thing started school board to the county commission, and then they tell school board told us, don't okay that. We don't have to. We've never seen. I'm sure you say something.
Thank you. Well, and on that note, it sounds to me from Mr. Fulbright coming here tonight, we're heading in a direction, I hope, that is going to create, and as Mr. Mayor Mulder addressed earlier, of some more open conversations pertaining to all the things. It sounds like it was a huge step, I will say, and honor what Mr. Fulbright, with him being here tonight, speak on behalf of the school board was huge. So, thank you again. Yeah, man, he gave one response tonight that, regardless of this development or any, they don't have the school systems and the funding in place at the moment.
I believe Mr. Gamble's been working with the school on that. You want him to put that in a formal response to you with all the other questions, or?
I do have some information to share with you. We met with Mr. Perryman this morning.
Okay, do you want to? That was one of the questions.
Absolutely.
That's a question that needs to be answered.
So
we can hear it, so the public will be informed on what's going on. Actually know what's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm getting at. Look, I'd go back, listen to it, maybe get with Paul, sit down. All right, Paul, what questions do you have that we need to definitely address?
Absolutely.
And the school is, it's the biggest one. And I echo what they said. I've been on this board for 8 years, and this is the most I've ever heard from the school system ever. And I commend Mr. Fulbright for saying that. That went more there than I've heard from the last 8 years from him. And I don't want to sound like we're crying, but we never heard anything. And I think one time, no, we did hear something. We have no plans. That was it. No plans. So from that being said, from here forward, it's a new day for the school, everybody. I agree with what Watley said. Let's try to get this thing worked out. Hey, I'm the same way. My wife taught 32 years. I'm a school teacher family. So, but that went so well, Mr. Fulbright. And him for that. Went a long way. And I know it did for you.
Yeah.
That's all I've got.
So some safety considerations for Iron Bridge at that location. Okay. Correct.
Are there any conversations with Mr. Boshears or
I know we've been continued conversations with him. Our traffic engineer is here tonight. If you want her to speak on that now, which she can, or we can wait till the work session. Okay, we'll provide you a written answer and can provide you more information at the work session when we meet.
Is the work session public?
Yes. The study. You want study sessions? Yes, our study sessions are public. Yeah, they're the week before. So it was last week. Did you make a motion? I did. I did.
Made a motion to defer.
I made a motion to defer. And a second.
And if I could just say, as part of discussion, I support the deferral as well. Mr. Gamble, the two things that I'm going to be most interested in as this project progresses, or at least as it lives to see next month, would be the environmental impact, which was mentioned with respect to Duck River, and what, if any, information y'all have gleaned or performed on that. And then number two, the schools situation. And for better or worse, this project has brought forward an issue that I think needed to be discussed. And so actually I'm going to take the positive outlook from tonight's meeting and think that actually this project, whether or not we support it or not, has brought forward the fact that there has been very little communication that's happened, and that needs to change, and it needs to happen immediately, further communication and collaboration. So I'm going to leave tonight with a positive outlook on this, and I want to say thanks to everyone who has been here this evening, who has expressed their opinion with respect and professionalism. We appreciate that. I think at the end of the day, when we have conversations like this, we're all better for it. And so, Mr. Gamble, I'll look forward to hearing that further, and thanks to everyone who spoke this evening and for being here with us tonight.
Thank you, Mayor.
So, thank you. We do have to, we have the motion and the second, and more discussion, we will call the vote.
Mr. Hutto,
To defer.
Mr. McBroom, Mayor Mulder,
Aye.
Mr. Pace, Mr. Goetz.
Aye. This motion is deferred.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing, thank you, please. This brings us to other business item on our agenda tonight. Is any other business to be discussed?
Not for me, sir.
Move to adjourn. Second. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Call the vote.
Mr. Hutto, Mr. McBroom, Mayor Mulder,
Aye.
Mr. Pace, Mr. Goetz.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Big home. I mean, they don't put how many they're gonna put them on. They just, yeah, that's what Hey, girl.
I appreciate your. Oh, thank you. Hey, Connie.
Oh boy, if that stuff stays on there We did. Mr. Wes Bryant came before them some time back and was pleading for comments from the schools. Yeah. It's back when Mr. Bryant was